10 Worst Smokers in Hollywood History, here goes my vote. Smoking, once the ultimate symbol of power, rebellion, and Hollywood cool, was more than just a habit for some of the biggest stars in history. It became part of their image, their identity, and in many cases their downfall. From actors who made cigarettes look effortlessly stylish on screen, to those who paid the ultimate price for their addiction, the truth behind Hollywood's smoking legends is shocking. Who had the most extreme habit? Who ignored the warning signs until it was too late? Let's find out. Bette Davis. Bette Davis, an undisputed icon of classic Hollywood, was as well known for her commanding performances as she was for her signature habit, smoking. Unlike many actors who use cigarettes purely as props, Davis incorporated them as an integral part of her character portrayals, reinforcing the era's association between smoking and sophistication. However, her dependency on cigarettes extended far beyond the screen, shaping both her personal life and her health in significant ways. Davis was an unwavering advocate for realism in film. If a character smoked, she insisted on doing so authentically, often keeping a lit cigarette in her hand throughout entire scenes. This approach made smoking one of her trademarks, as seen in classics like Now Voyager, 1942, where her iconic moment of lighting 2 cigarettes at once became a defining Hollywood image. In real life, Davis smoked up to 4 packs per day, a staggering habit amounting to approximately 80 cigarettes daily. Even during interviews and public appearances, she was rarely seen without one. Her addiction was so severe that she once admitted she couldn't go more than 10 minutes without lighting up. Even visits to the dentist didn't interrupt her routine. She reportedly smoked in waiting rooms, and even while sitting in the dental chair. Surprisingly, despite her extreme smoking habit, Davis lived to 81 years old, ultimately passing away from breast cancer rather than lung disease. However, smoking took a visible toll on her appearance, contributing to her prematurely aged look in her later years. Humphrey Bogart. Humphrey Bogart, one of Hollywood's most legendary leading men, was synonymous with tough guy roles, undeniable charisma, and notably cigarettes. His deep voice, relaxed posture, and ever-present cigarette created an image that defined masculinity and coolness in classic cinema. While his on-screen presence made smoking look effortless, his real-life addiction had severe consequences that ultimately cut his life short. Bogart smoked 2 packs of unfiltered cigarettes daily, a habit that began early in his career and only intensified as he gained fame. His association with smoking was so strong that cigarettes were often referred to as bogeys in slang, cementing his influence on popular culture. Unlike some actors who smoke purely as a Hollywood prop, Bogart genuinely enjoyed smoking and incorporated it naturally into his performances. However, it was originally a practical tool. Long monologues in early films left him restless, so he began using cigarettes to add movement and depth to his scenes. This choice became a signature part of his style, seen in classics like Casablanca, 1942, and The Big Sleep, 1946. Off-screen, Bogart's smoking, combined with heavy drinking, took a noticeable toll on his health. His deep, gravelly voice and chronic cough became more pronounced as he aged. By the early 1950s, he suffered from fatigue and memory loss, but he dismissed early symptoms and avoided seeing a doctor. By the time he sought medical attention in 1956, the damage was severe. He was diagnosed with esophageal cancer, a direct result of decades of smoking. Despite surgery and radiation, the disease progressed rapidly. Bogart passed away at 57 years old on January 14, 1957. His death was a tragic reminder of the dangers of heavy smoking, despite how effortlessly he made it look on screen. His influence on Hollywood endures, but so does the cautionary tale of his untimely demise. Errol Flynn. Errol Flynn, the dashing Hollywood star of the 1930s and 1940s, was the embodiment of adventure, charm, and reckless indulgence. Best known for his roles in The Adventures of Robin Hood, 1938, and Captain Blood, 1935. Flynn was a natural on screen, exuding confidence and daring. However, behind the scenes, he lived a life of extreme excess, with smoking, alcohol, and drug use contributing to his rapid decline. Flynn's smoking habit was severe, with reports suggesting he consumed 3 to 4 packs of cigarettes per day. Unlike actors who use smoking primarily as a stylistic choice, Flynn's addiction was fueled by a high-stress lifestyle. Constantly under the public eye and battling legal controversies, he turned to smoking and drinking to cope. Even on film sets, he found ways to sneak alcohol past restrictions, famously injecting vodka into oranges. His reliance on substances only worsened over time, leaving his body noticeably aged long before his years. By the late 1940s, Flynn's once youthful good looks began to fade. His face, once smooth and chiseled, became lined and weathered, with smoking accelerating the aging process. His stamina declined, and he found it increasingly difficult to maintain his previous on-screen energy. His lifestyle also contributed to multiple health problems, including chronic liver damage and heart disease. In 1959, at the age of 50, he suffered a massive heart attack while in Vancouver, Canada. His autopsy results shocked many. His body was described as resembling that of a 75-year-old man, with severe organ damage from years of heavy smoking, drinking, and drug use. Despite his short life, Flynn left an indelible mark on Hollywood, though his legacy is as much a cautionary tale as it is one of stardom and adventure. Sammy Davis Jr. Sammy Davis Jr. was a multi-talented performer, excelling as a singer, dancer, actor, and comedian. As a key member of the Rat Pack, he epitomized cool, performing alongside Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin in Las Vegas clubs and Hollywood films. However, beyond his dazzling stage presence, Davis struggled with a smoking habit that would eventually cost him dearly. Unlike some celebrities who use smoking as a Hollywood affectation, Davis smoked both on and off stage, as a genuine part of his persona. He often lit a cigarette during performances, seamlessly incorporating it into his act. One of his signature moves involved taking a deep puff before singing a note, exhaling smoke as he belted out lyrics. This became a stylish quirk that fans associated with his effortless charm. However, it was far from harmless. Davis was a lifelong chain smoker, consuming up to 3 packs of cigarettes per day. He ignored warnings from fellow performers, including Nat King Cole, who cautioned that the heat from cigarettes would damage his vocal cords. By the 1980s, the consequences of his habit became clear. His once powerful voice grew hoarse, and he struggled to hit notes he once sang with ease. His manager took him to a throat specialist, who confirmed that smoking had caused inflamed nodules on his vocal cords. Despite these issues, Davis continued smoking heavily. In 1989, he was diagnosed with throat cancer, a direct result of his years of smoking. Surgeons attempted to remove the tumor, but the cancer was too advanced. Davis refused to have his larynx removed, knowing it would take away his ability to speak and sing. He passed away on May 16, 1990, at the age of 64, leaving behind a legacy of unparalleled showmanship, but also a stark warning about the devastating impact of smoking on vocal performers. Rod Serling. Rod Serling was a television pioneer, best known as the mastermind behind The Twilight Zone. His sharp storytelling and thought-provoking scripts made him a legend in the industry. But behind his creative genius lay a deep struggle with stress, self-doubt, and a reliance on cigarettes that ultimately led to his early demise. Serling was a prolific smoker, going through 4 packs of cigarettes per day, an extreme habit that amounted to roughly 80 cigarettes daily. His dependence on smoking was partly due to the immense pressure he placed on himself. Writing at a breakneck pace, Serling often churned out scripts overnight, lighting cigarette after cigarette to keep himself focused. His friends and colleagues frequently commented on how a lit cigarette seemed like an extension of his hand. His smoking habit worsened after The Twilight Zone ended in 1964. Struggling to recapture the success of his defining work, Serling bounced between projects, feeling the weight of creative expectation. During this time, his drinking also increased, compounding the damage to his health. He suffered from chronic fatigue, frequent coughing, and shortness of breath, all of which he ignored. By 1975, the effects of decades of smoking were undeniable. Serling suffered a serious heart attack, requiring bypass surgery to clear clogged arteries. But his body, weakened by years of self-inflicted damage, couldn't withstand the procedure. He suffered a second fatal heart attack during the operation and passed away on June 28, 1975, at just 50 years old. Sorling's death was a tragic loss to television, cutting short the life of a man whose imagination reshaped storytelling. His legacy remains, but so does the harsh lesson of how stress, smoking, and self-destructive habits can take even the brightest minds too soon. Jackie Gleason. Jackie Gleason, best known for his role as Ralph Cramden in The Honeymooners, was a larger-than-life figure in every sense. His booming voice, commanding presence, and quick wit made him a household name in the 1950s. But behind the laughs, Gleason lived a life of indulgence, with smoking, drinking, and overeating contributing to his declining health. Gleason was a 5-pack-a-day smoker, an extreme habit that equated to smoking around 100 cigarettes daily. Unlike some actors who smoked for image, his addiction was all-consuming. Whether on set, at home, or in interviews, he was rarely without a cigarette. Smoking was as much a part of his public persona as his comedic timing, and it became a defining trait of his off-screen lifestyle. His excesses didn't stop at smoking. Gleason was notorious for his love of food and alcohol, often consuming multiple extravagant meals in one sitting, followed by whiskey or scotch. His weight fluctuated between 230 and 330 pounds, a cycle that put further strain on his already burdened body. He even joked about how his size affected his life, once saying, "Sex for a fat man is much ado about puffing." Over the years, his vices caught up with him. His heavy smoking led to serious health issues, and by the 1980s, he was diagnosed with colon cancer, though he kept the illness private. He continued smoking despite the diagnosis, and his condition worsened. On June 24, 1987, Gleason passed away at 71 years old, leaving behind a legacy of comedy, but also a cautionary tale of how an unchecked lifestyle can lead to an early decline. Yul Brynner. Yul Brynner, the enigmatic star of The King and I, 1956, and The Magnificent Seven, 1960, was known for his striking looks, deep voice, and commanding stage presence. But beneath the surface, he battled a severe smoking addiction that would later define his final years. Brynner was a 5-pack-a-day smoker, meaning he consumed an estimated 100 cigarettes daily. Unlike some actors who smoked as a stylistic choice, Brynner's addiction was purely habitual. He started smoking in his teenage years and never stopped, making cigarettes an integral part of his daily routine. Even as he aged and warnings about smoking became more prevalent, he refused to quit. For much of his career, the consequences of his smoking weren't immediately visible. He remained active, starring in films and reprising his famous role as the King of Siam on Broadway well into the 1970s. However, in the early 1980s, he was diagnosed with lung cancer, an illness directly linked to his decades-long smoking habit. The diagnosis was a shock, and Brynner finally quit cigarettes. But it was too late. The disease progressed rapidly, leaving him weak and unable to continue his work. Realizing that his time was short, Brynner chose to make a powerful statement. Before his death, he recorded a public service announcement for the American Cancer Society, which aired posthumously. In the chilling message, he warned viewers, "Now that I'm gone, I tell you, don't smoke. Whatever you do, just don't smoke." On October 10, 1985, Brynner passed away at 65 years old. His anti-smoking message remains one of the most famous celebrity warnings against tobacco use, ensuring that even in death, he made an impact beyond Hollywood. Clark Gable. Clark Gable, often referred to as the King of Hollywood, was the embodiment of rugged masculinity during the golden age of cinema. Best known for his role as Rhett Butler in Gone with the Wind, 1939, Gable's charisma and effortless charm made him a cinematic legend. However, behind his confident demeanor was a severe smoking habit that contributed to his untimely death. Gable was a lifelong smoker, consuming 3 packs of unfiltered cigarettes per day. His addiction was so ingrained in his daily life that he was rarely seen without a cigarette, whether on film sets, during interviews, or in private. In addition to cigarettes, he frequently smoked cigars and enjoyed pipe tobacco, further increasing his exposure to harmful toxins. Despite his strong physical appearance, Gable's body endured years of damage from smoking, combined with an intense lifestyle. His career took a dramatic turn in 1942 when, at the height of his fame, he enlisted in the U.S. Army Air Forces during World War II. His smoking habit continued through combat missions, where he served as an aerial gunner and earned distinguished honors. By the late 1950s, the effects of heavy smoking became apparent. He frequently suffered from shortness of breath, fatigue, and high blood pressure. But he continued smoking as if nothing was wrong. While filming The Misfits, 1961, co-starring Marilyn Monroe, Gable performed physically demanding stunts in extreme heat, exacerbating his health issues. Shortly after filming Wrapped, he suffered a severe heart attack, followed by another a few days later. He passed away on November 16, 1960, at 59 years old. Doctors attributed his death to decades of smoking and stress, proving that even Hollywood royalty wasn't immune to the consequences of tobacco addiction. His legacy remains untouchable, but his fate serves as a warning about the dangers of smoking. Spencer Tracy. Spencer Tracy, one of Hollywood's greatest actors, was celebrated for his naturalistic performances and commanding presence on screen. With 2 Academy Awards and a reputation for excellence, he was revered by audiences and fellow actors alike. However, his immense talent was accompanied by a destructive lifestyle, one marked by chain smoking, alcoholism, and health issues that would eventually lead to his downfall. Tracy was a lifelong heavy smoker, going through at least 2 to 3 packs of cigarettes per day. Smoking was deeply ingrained in his life, both as a habit and as a way to cope with his struggles. Though he maintained a strong screen presence, behind the scenes, he battled personal demons, including severe depression and a reliance on alcohol. His smoking and drinking only worsened his already fragile health, leading to frequent hospitalizations in his later years. By the time he reached his 60s, his body was breaking down. Years of smoking had contributed to hypertensive heart disease, making it difficult for him to work. He suffered from chronic breathlessness, high blood pressure, and worsening heart problems, forcing him to slow down his once prolific career. In July 1963, he was rushed to the hospital after experiencing a serious breathing episode. His doctors warned him that his body was nearing its limits, but Tracy, stubborn as ever, continued smoking. In July 1965, he received a grim diagnosis. His heart disease had reached a critical stage. His longtime companion, Katharine Hepburn, remained by his side as he faced the final years of his life. His last film, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, 1967, was completed under close medical supervision, with the production team fearful that he wouldn't survive to finish it. Just 17 days after filming Wrapped, Tracy suffered a fatal heart attack on June 10, 1967, at 67 years old. John Wayne. John Wayne, one of the most iconic actors in Hollywood history, was synonymous with the rugged tough guy roles he played in over 170 films, including 142 westerns. With his towering 6 feet 4 inches frame, deep voice, and commanding presence, Wayne became the ultimate symbol of American masculinity. But behind his legendary status, he struggled with a smoking habit that would ultimately lead to his tragic demise. Wayne was a lifelong chain smoker, consuming up to 7 packs of unfiltered Camel cigarettes per day, a staggering amount that meant he smoked approximately 140 cigarettes daily. His addiction started as a young actor and intensified as he aged, becoming an inseparable part of his image. Unlike some stars who smoked for style, Wayne's habit was pure dependency. Even in his later years, after doctors warned him of the dangers, he refused to quit completely. His smoking habit extended beyond personal use. He actively promoted cigarettes in magazine ads and television commercials, further glamorizing smoking to millions of fans. In the 1950s, he even participated in endorsements for Camel cigarettes, reinforcing the idea that smoking was both normal and masculine. By the early 1960s, the consequences of smoking began to take a serious toll on his health. In 1964, he was diagnosed with lung cancer, leading to the removal of most of his left lung, in a desperate attempt to save his life. Miraculously, he survived and publicly claimed he had beaten cancer, even though he continued smoking cigars afterward. Unfortunately, his luck ran out in the late 1970s, when he was diagnosed with stomach cancer, a direct result of his continued tobacco use. On June 11, 1979, John Wayne passed away at 72 years old. His legacy as Hollywood's greatest cowboy remains intact, but his story serves as a stark warning about the devastating effects of smoking, even for the toughest of men. Smoking was once seen as a symbol of Hollywood glamour, but as we've seen, it came at a devastating cost for many legendary stars. From Humphrey Bogart's effortless cool to John Wayne's rugged persona, these icons unknowingly influenced millions to pick up the habit, only to face serious health consequences later in life. While their talent and legacy live on, their stories serve as a powerful reminder of the dangers of smoking. What do you think about Hollywood's past relationship with cigarettes? Were you surprised by any of these stories? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and share it with fellow movie fans. Your support helps us keep bringing you fascinating Hollywood stories. And if you haven't already, subscribe to All About Hollywood and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest videos. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.